عليكم. I'm Shada Matlaq, R1 resident in King Faisal Specialist Hospital. Today I will talk about development of the heart and great results. This is my objectives today: introduction, the infusion of the heart tubes, the exteriors of the heart and the bulbous cordis, the sinus venosus, formation of the atria and separation of atria and pulmonary trunk, then ventricle and development of the heart valves and the timelines. When does the heart begin to develop? Actually, it's toward the end of third week of gestation. How does the heart develop? How does the development of the heart begin? The angle of the heart forms in the cephalic end of the embryonic disc. The splanchnic embryonic mesoderm, which is mesoderm adjust to the endoderm, become thicker and form the right and left side called cardiogenic area. Like in this image, on the right, this is the embryonic disc. The blue one is the ectoderm, and the orange one is the mesoderm, and the yellow one is the endoderm. Between the endoderm and mesoderm start thickening and forms the cardiogenic area. Cells of the area migrate between the mesoderm and the endoderm and arrange as to longitudinal cellular strand called cardiogenic cord. Cord become canalized to form two thin-walled endothelial tube called endocardial heart tube. Like in this image, this is the heart tube, and this is the pericardial cavity, and with time the tube has become engulfed by the cavity. A pair of endothelial tube fused to become a primitive heart tube. This develops within the pericardial cavity, suspended from dorsal wall by a dorsal mesocardium. Then grooves develop in the primitive heart tube to divide it into 5 regions: truncus arteriosus, bulbous cordis, and ventricle, atrium, and sinus venosus. Development of exterior of the heart. Heart tube is suspended from the dorsal wall of the pericardial cavity by 2 layers of pericardium, which constitute dorsal mesocardium. Mesocardium disappear and heart tube lie within the pericardial sac. Then the caudal part of the heart tube, atrium, and the sinus venosus is embedded within the septum transversum. Bulbous cordis and the ventricle as pericardial cavity grow rapidly and become folded to form a U-shaped bulboventricular loop in the C picture. And in the D, there is atrium and sinus venosus freed from separate transversum, lie behind and above the ventricle, and heart tube is now S-shaped. Atrial and venous end of the ends come closer to each other, and space between them become transversum sinus pericardium. At the same time, the heart rotates slightly anti-clockwise and twists so that the right ventricle lie anteriorly and the left atrium and the ventricle posterior. As the tube develops, the sinus venosus become incorporated into the atrium, and the bulbous cordis become incorporated into the ventricle. Talking about the truncus arteriosus, a common atrial trunk, the truncus arteriosus continue from the bulbous cordis and give off 6 pairs of aortic arch, like we see in this picture. And the caudal part, this is the extension of the truncus arteriosus. The aortic arch curved around the pharynx to join dorsal aorta, which join together lower down and descending aorta. These arches are equivalent to the supply the jelly-cleft fish. Like we see in this picture, and the ventral part, it's curved around the pharyngeal cleft to join the dorsal aorta. The aortic arch, first and second arch disappear early, and third arch remain as carotid artery. Fourth arch on the right became subclavian artery, and on the left became arch of the aorta, giving off the left subclavian. The fifth arch disappear early, and the ventral part of sixth arch become right and left pulmonary artery. The connection to the dorsal aorta disappear on the right, but continue as the ductus arteriosus on the left, connecting the aortic arch. The valgus cordis lies at the atrial end of the heart, divide into proximal part, which named conus, and distal part, truncus arteriosus. Sinus venosus lie at the venous end of the heart. It has right and left horn, prolongation of the sinus venosus. Each horn are joined by one vitelline vein from the yolk sac, and the umbilical vein from the placenta, and common cardinal vein from the body of the womb. Like in this picture, in the blue, which is the sinus venosus, there is 3 branches. One from the yolk sac, and the placenta, and the body womb. Atrium development. Formation of the atria, sinus venosus, and the primitive atrial chamber are first connected by wide opening. Gradually, opening became narrow and shifted to the right. Finally became a narrow slit. The slit has right and left margin, known as right and left venous valve. Cranially, these 2 valves fuse to form the septum. Septation of the ventricle to thickening atrioventricular cushing appear on the dorsal and ventral wall. Development between the primitive atrium and ventricle. An interventricular septum develop from the apex up to, toward the endocardial cushing, grow toward each other, and fuse to form septum intermedium. Septation of the atria. The division of atrium is slightly more complicated. The septum premium grow down to fuse with endocardial cushion, but leaves a hole in the upper part, which term foramen ovale. The septum secundum developed just right to the septum premium and foramen ovale. Thus, the valve-like structure developed, which allow blood to go from the right to the left side of the heart in the fetus. At birth, when there is an increase in blood flow through the lungs and rise in left atrial pressure, the septum premium is pushed across and close the foramen ovale. Foramen ovale is obturated by fusion of the septum premium and septum secundum. In this picture, the annulus ovale, which is the lower free edge of the septum secundum, which is in red circle, and in the blue circle, fossa ovale, which is septum premium. Here, in this picture, sinus venosus is absorbed into the right atrium by great enlargement of sinoatrial orifice. Then the left horn part of the coronary sinus and the right cardinal became part of the superior vena cava, and the right vitelline vein became terminal part of the inferior vena cava. In the right picture, right margin of the origin sinoatrial orifice, right and left venous valve expand and divide into crista termini and valves of inferior vena cava and valve of coronary sinus. And this is just written what's seen in the picture. Development of the left atrium. During beginning of formation of septum premium, single pulmonary vein open into the left half of the atria. This pulmonary vein divide into left and right branches. Gradually, the parts pulmonary vein nearest to the left atrium are absorbed into the atrium, resulting in 4 separate veins, 2 on each side. Development of ventricles. Conus of bulbous cordis merge with the cavity of perimeter ventricle, and interventricular septum grow upward from the floor bulboventricular cavity and divide it into right and left half. 2 ridges, right and left bulbar ridges, form the wall of the conical part of the bulbar cavity. Spiral septation grows toward each other and diffused from bulbar septum. Separation of aorta and pulmonary trunk. Spiral septum appear within the truncus arteriosus and subdivided into ascending aorta and pulmonary trunk, pulmonary arteries. They fuse along the axis of the cylinder extension down and toward the ventricle. Interventricular foramen obturated by mass of endocardial tissue from the interventricular septum, endocardial Cushing, and spiral septum. Valves of the heart formation, mitral and tricuspid. It's formed by profilation of the connective tissue under the endocardium of the left and right atrioventricular canal. And valves from the pulmonary and aortic develop from endocardial cushion, form at junction of truncus arteriosus and the conus. With the separation of aortic and pulmonary trunk, each cushion are subdivided into 2 parts. Then 2 more cushion, anterior and posterior, appear. 3 cushion is in each opening, which the third cusp of the corresponding valves develop. Pulmonary valve is initially ventral to the aortic valve. Subsequently, rotated happened, and the pulmonary valve lie ventral to the left aortic valve. This is timeline of heart formation. In early 4th week, the pairs of lateral and endocardial tubes fuse. In the 5th and 6th week, pairs of septa and septum premium, septum secundum separates right and left atrial development of bicuspid and tricuspid atrioventricular valve. In 6th week, muscular ventricular septum partially separates the ventricle, and in 7 and 8 weeks, spiral septum separates the ascending aorta and pulmonary trunk. A swelling within the truncus arteriosus give rise to similar valve of aorta and pulmonary trunk, and complete ventricular septation. This is the end of my presentation. Any question?
يعطيك العافية شذا.
الله يعافيك.
Okay, can we ask questions?
Yes, doctor.
For those in the senior years, maybe they can answer this one if you can't, Shada. Do you know the relationship of the neural crest to the development of the heart?
No.
Okay. While somebody can volunteer from the senior guys, there's somebody in the National Guard by the name of Dr. Almuz, I think Almuz or Almuz. He have done a lot of work on the development of the heart, and he have presented in many grand rounds around. He will be a good person to get in touch with. He also is doing a lot of research in the development of the heart, with also imaging, CT scan imaging of the early embryological changes. If any of you is interested in doing research with him, I'm sure he will welcome that. Okay.
Can I answer that question?
Please, Murtada.
Yes. What I know that recently there has been some research in the development of the heart, and they hypothesized that the tissue that forms the septations of the heart is actually guided by neural crest cells, which migrates early in the development of the heart. And to test that theory, I read a paper that did an experiment where they tried to grow a mice heart ex vivo, and they wanted to check if that heart tube will still form and loop in the same way as if it is inside the thoracic cavity. And that is actually what happened. So from that experiment, they conclude that the septation and looping is actually a genetically programmed process guided by this neural crest migration, not a forced process guided by the geometrical shape of the thoracic cavity.
True. And the research in that area, not only on the mice, but actually on the chicken hearts, if they obliterated that immigration of the tissues, everything is being affected. The orientation, the axis, the septation, and the development of those different pathologies. There's also a genetic association with certain genes, deletion of certain genes. Are you aware of that, Murtada?
No, I don't have details about this. I have just a general idea.
All right, so for those who are going to be doing congenital heart rotations, they may want to dig more into this area. There are certain diseases that are associated with some genetic deletions, and so therefore the syndrome that will happen, it may include the disease of the thyroid. It may include also the whole area of the outflow tract, or the development of a truncus saccharosis, or for example also the development of tetralogy of Fallot. Okay, well, nice presentation, Shada. I really like the last, not the last slide, but the one just before that, which shows the timeline. I remember many times in the exam there will be one or two questions about the timeline. I'm not sure of the significance of that to know the details of it, but for you as a general cardiac surgeons or involved with patient care, especially if they become pregnant, the early development of the heart within the first 2 months is very crucial, and therefore medication affects teratogenicity related to any medication that you use. We use, for example, warfarin. We need to know that detail. And ACE inhibitors, for example, how does it affect the development of the heart, and many other teratogenic useful medication in clinical scenarios, but very important effect on the heart. Having radiation at the early development of the heart in the first 2 months of pregnancy is also important. Having infection, certain type of infection is associated with certain type of diseases that is well-known syndromes, and you may be asked about some of these. Thank you very much again, Shada.
شكرا دكتور، يعطيكم العافية جميعا.